Good evening. My name is Pat Meschino. I'm a journalist and a board member of Tropicalfete, a Caribbean cultural organization based here in Brooklyn, New York. June is observed as Caribbean American History Month in the US, and each June, Tropicalfete presents its Authors Connecting program, which highlights the work of authors who live in the Caribbean or authors with Caribbean ancestry who live anywhere in the world. After being a completely virtual experience for the past 2 years, Tropicalfete's Authors Connecting program returns in 2022 with a mix of in-person and online events. Tonight's program is one such hybrid. For the inaugural segment of our 2022 Caribbean Authors Connecting program, we will speak to first-time author Elizabeth Lady Montano, who will be joining us virtually from her home in Trinidad. Lady, as she is affectionately known, is the mother of and former manager of soca superstar Machel Montano, who is celebrating his 40th anniversary in music this year. In my capacity as a journalist, I've known Machel for about 32 years of his 40-year career, and I've known Lady Montano for almost as long. And I've seen firsthand the work that Mrs. Montano has put into helping Machel ascend to the heights of stardom he has reached in his career. Mrs. Montano is the mother of two sons, her oldest child, Marcus, and she has been so integral to Machel's success, but she does what every good manager should do, and that is to play their part, but not really be the most visible person within the camp, but let the work speak for itself. Mrs. Montano describes herself as the ultimate insider to Machel's journey to success. And she details that journey in her first book called King of Soca, which she will discuss with us tonight. In addition to the stories and firsthand experiences, Mrs. Montano also shares newspaper and magazine clippings in the book, single and album covers, and classic photos, one of which graces the book's cover, and that will be revealed here tonight too. An educator by training, Lady Montano based King of Soca on her 2018 Master of Philosophy thesis titled The Making of Monk Monte, Creativity and Commodification in TNT Popular Culture, working for her Master of Philosophy in Cultural Studies at UE Trinidad. Lady initially planned to build on that work towards a Ph.D., but decided against the academic route because she wanted her writing to be accessible to anyone interested in knowing more about her son, the Soca Titan. King of Soca is a self-published biography under Lady's own EESM publishers. And our second reveal tonight will be our first reveal tonight will be the full title of the book. So, and we will let Lady Montano tell us that. So, Lady Montano, welcome to Tropicalfete's Authors Connecting Series 2022. And yes, let's begin with the first reveal of the night. That is the book's official title.
Thank you very much. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Pat, how are you?
Great.
Okay, so the name of the book, King of Soca, and the ultimate insider reveals how Machel Montano became one of the world's most popular soca artists. That's the full title. I am the ultimate insider, and I'm going to reveal over the years how he became one of the most popular soca artists.
Wonderful, great. Well, Liz, as I mentioned in my intro, before we get into the book, you are the mother, you and your husband, Monty, are the parents of two sons, Marcus, your older son, and Machel. Marcus, a very successful pilot, And Machel, of course, is Soca star, Soca boss. And you tell us that early in the book that Machel's birth, he arrived early and he was initially stillborn. He arrived in the world on November 24th, 1974, a few weeks before his due date. Please, the doctor encouraged you to push him out, and when he came out, he wasn't crying. Please take us on that part of the journey. I mean, what happened? I mean, that's such a, it's such a devastating story, but thankfully it makes a turnaround. Please share that part of the story with us.
Yes, that morning of the 24th of November, well, that was 3 weeks before Marcel was supposed to be born. He was supposed to be born on the 16th of December. But that morning, I got a sudden pain, and I realized that I was hemorrhaging. And Monty took me, we headed off to the hospital, which is the community, the Cookery Community Hospital. But when we reached that bridge over right where West Mall is, all the pain stopped. And I realized that there was no more pain and there was no more movement and nothing was going on. And I got to the hospital about 10:30, and I remember the doctor was there searching for heartbeat, but there wasn't any heartbeat. And that is 10:30 in the morning, and I had lost a lot of blood, and he said I needed blood. So Monty gave that blood, but we had to wait until they tested it and everything. And I was there for the entire day, sitting, lying, and the doctor was sitting there whistling and trying to keep me comfortable. But he was saying that there was no heartbeat, so the baby is stillborn. Then about 5:35, I got that first pint of blood, and I felt a little movement, not in terms of his moving. And then the doctor said, "We have to do this." I said, "Without pain?" And he said, "Yes." And then he came and he said, "Come on, lady, force." Well, force. So a force. This is without any, like when in childbirth, you will have the baby pushing and you'll have contractions. There was nothing going on because there was no heartbeat, there was no movement. And eventually he told me to push, and I did. I was very slim. I pushed hard, and then the baby came out, didn't cry, didn't move, nothing. And then the doctor turned to me trying to save my life because he had already said the baby was stillborn. And I don't know what happened, but a few moments after, he just turned his back on me and he started with ice water and the baby heart, pumping oxygen, pumping out mucus, and then blah. He slapped him, and then he cried, and he said, "Not good enough, not good enough." And he went that whole process again, ice water, pumping oxygen, pumping out mucus, and licks again, and then cry. And then he turned to me and he said, "You had a boy and you will be sick one day." And he showed me him, and he was a little baby, very small. Took him to the incubator, and they brought him back to me later. But when they brought him back, oh my, he was a nice, big, fat baby. But he was not that same little one, so he was also exchanged.
Amazing.
And that's the story of the start of Machel Montano.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I'd never, that's an amazing piece of information so early in the book to come across, to know that Machel's birth, it took a very different turn than what the doctors anticipated, and thankfully, and it just shows you never give up, because we just don't know what the future has in store for us. And I think that's a sentiment throughout the book about never giving up, and something Machel has imparted throughout his music, throughout entire career. But I wanted to ask to talk a little bit about the childhood for Machel and Marcus. I know that they well, I should say, I know that they formed their band very early on, the Panasonic Express, but I wondered, were they raised in a musical household? Like, were you and Monty, were you the type of parents playing music all the time at home, listening to the radio? And if so, what kind of music were they exposed to from their earliest ages?
Well, they were exposed to reggae and they were exposed to pop and that kind of thing. But we didn't come from a musical family, Monty and myself. But what we were teachers, and what we did was we exposed our children to extracurricular activities. So Marcus was older, Marcus had started playing the guitar. He went to Ashford Music School, Ashford Joseph Music School, and he was learning to play the guitar. Marshall was 5 and he was 7. And Ashford will tell Marcus to come home and practice, and he had to sing and play the guitar. But Marcus couldn't sing, so Machel will sing with him. And eventually, Machel started to. We had this show called Antique, and Machel will have his own Antique where Marcus and himself will be contestants. Machel will be the judge. Machel will be the host. And then at 5, Machel will be taping the show. And that is when we found out that he had a good voice. And then we sent him to be trained by Ashford also. And that was in 1982, and he started. And then Marcel would jokingly tell you, when he went to join the choir, they say, Marcel, you want to join choir? He said, yes. Marcel, you want to sing solo? He said, yes. Okay. Marcel, you want to sing solo? Okay. Marcel, you want to go in a calypso competition? Okay. And this is how it started. And then from the very beginning, he started winning the competitions, winning the school competitions, the village competitions, the St. Patrick competitions, and then we took him to San Fernando, and then we took him to Port of Spain to 12 and under, and this is when it started. And then 1984, it's when he went professional at 9.
Wow, amazing. And was this something from his earliest age he was interested in doing, being in the competition, and you and your husband were fully supportive? Or were you, because you're both teachers, I mean, I could see where maybe you were a little concerned this might interfere with his schoolwork if he's pursuing music alongside his academic responsibilities. So how did you handle that, and how did young Machel handle that? Was he from out the gate basically saying, yes, I want to do this, and was willing to rehearse and do whatever it took to become better and better at what he did?
Well, at first, remember, he went along with it and said, okay. And then he said, Marshall, you want to do this? He went along with it. And then in 1984, when he went to Madison Square Garden, that is when he decided, when he came back, I remember after Mother's Day, May 19th, is when he decided to form his own band. And that is when Panasonic was born, and Marcus was very instrumental in that activity. So it's from that early age 9, he decided that if he had to do this, he would want to do it with his own musicians. Then when you asked the question about whether we were concerned about whether it would interfere with his studies, remember both Monty and I were teachers, right? And all the boys around were very young. And we made it very clear that education was important. So Machel and they lived, and Marcus, they lived a very kind of structured life in that they had to do their schoolwork, they had to do their chores, they had a time to rehearse and everything. And even when we traveled or when we came to Port of Spain, we always made sure that their schoolwork was done and always made sure that they went to school. Even when Marshall traveled, when he went to Star Search, he had a coach, he had a study coach. So that education is always very important, and Marshall was able to balance both.
Okay, great. And in your book, you mentioned that your husband Monty took out a $25,000 loan, well, TT dollars we're talking, to produce Machel's first album, Too Young to Soca. And of course, that's the song that put Machel on the, of course, on the stage, the national stage in Trinidad, but also internationally. He became well known because of that song. And I know that it's the songwriter Winsford Devines, the late Winsford Devines, who actually died last year when we were interviewing Dr. Otley. I remember it was the same day that we got the news that he passed away. But he wrote that wonderful song, Too Young to Soca, as he wrote so many songs for so many of the top calypsonians. And also on that same album, you had Leston Paul, a world-renowned arranger, working on it. And my question is, were these gentlemen who were so seasoned in what they did and such professionals and heavily in demand, were they, did it take much convincing for them to work on an album with a little boy who was just hoping to make his name? Or did they kind of get the vision right from the beginning that yes, this child really has some talent and we want to be a part of it from the ground level up?
Well, the Too Young to Soca idea came from us because from 1984, when he sang The Letter, that is when he sang about the teachers, that is when that whole idea of being too young. So Monty and I, together with Machel, we took the idea to Winsford Devine and told him what we wanted out of it, and that is where this song began. And then we decided to go to Leicester because we wanted the best at the time. And strange enough, Marcel had that interest in producing, and he would study Leicester and he would be there and he would be interested. And Marcel just had this eye or ear, because I could remember from 1984, Marcel would be listening to a band at the age of 9 and saying, somebody here is off key. And I am wondering, what does this child know about being off key? And then he come and say, the pitch isn't right. And nobody taught him these things, So from very early, he had a keen ear, and I think that it was a gift. So people like Leston and Winsford were very amazed to work with somebody so young and yet so, knowledgeable.
And you mentioned earlier, I wanted to go back to Machel appearing on Star Search in the US, which was such a big show during its time in the 1980s. And there was Machel representing Trinidad and Soca and himself and doing quite well. Like, what was that like for him, and what was that like for you and the family to see him participate and compete on that international platform?
Well, it was the first time that soca was being sung on Star Search. I remember the day we went to replace, I think, Tatiana, who was from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So it was where, when you come on, you had two competitors, and one will win and the other one will, and you will be replaced. One will be replaced. The experience was great because at a very early age, we realized that when in front of national television, we had to rehearse, and everything you did, you had to do it just the way you would do it when it is being played, so that you can just improvise. Also, it was strict in terms of young kids were there, and that they had, as I said earlier, they had to have their coaches, so that it was a very strict operation. At that time, Machel was managed by an American, and she's the one who introduced us to Star Search. And it was really an amazing, because there was Machel who had to decide. He had two songs. He was either going to sing just the two of us or Too Young to Soca. And he had to decide, do I sing my music soca or do I go and sing just the two of them? And he himself decided that he is going to do soca. And he went and he did it, and it was well received. And we didn't win, but it was an incredible experience because then we learned all the big stars, everybody who got big, like Beyonce, all these people appeared on Star Search at some time in their lives.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's great. And something that there's so many things that stand out to me in the book, but there was something early on that I was reading where you, they decide to change the name of the band from Panasonic Express to Ecstatic. And the idea was to thinking in terms of branding. And I thought that was very advanced for that time, and considering how young everyone in the band was then, to be thinking along those lines. So tell me a little bit about that mindset at that point in time to already be, I mean, we hear the word branding all the time today, but back in this I guess would have been the late 80s, early 90s, we didn't hear it so much. So tell me about that mindset that already Machel and the other boys in the band and your husband and yourself were already thinking of branding with the change.
Well, the Panasonic Express in the beginning came from prana, Prana, that which means a breath of life. And we lived in a development called Prana Homes. And Machel and they decided, right, they had this Panasonic stereo. That was their favorite stereo. Remember, Machel used to be taping and stuff from it. And he put the two things together, Panasonic Express. And they used to, at that time, look at Soul Train. You know, all these were the popular kind of shows and music. And he named it Panasonic Express. But then by the time 1989, Machel, again taking the lead, felt that the name was not in line with modern trends. And we decided to meet, and Monty and Machel and we all decided we wanted to change the name. And eventually Monty came up with the name Ecstatic. But this time it is from the word ecstasy, ecstatic, and it means a musical rapture. And then we decided, okay, we are not going to spell it the usual way. And then we came up with X, keeping that Panasonic Express X, and the TATIK, Trinidad and Tobago International Kings. So ecstatic is really an acronym for the X from Express and Trinidad and Tobago International Kings, a musical rapture. And Machel just had this, I don't know, sort of, well, plus Monty and all of us, we read a lot. We didn't really have experience in entertainment because we were educators. But Machel was very advanced in his thinking. And when he came to us, we always sat together as a family, the four of us, discussed it, and came up with these ideas. And that's how Ecstatic was born.
Wow. And just so we understand the chronology of you and your husband's roles in this. Your husband Monty was the original manager of Machel and the band, and you were the publicist. And then at a point, he, be it you both had your full-time jobs too. So at a point, he had to. I guess it just too much to balance the two, and you became manager of Machel and the band. This would be sometime in the 90s that this happened, the later 90s?
No. This happened in about 89 because 89, by that time, we had come back from university and now Monty became a geologist and he had to go offshore. And I was a guidance officer and he couldn't travel with Machel. And then I took early retirement in 1989 and I moved with the band, and that is how I became the manager. So that was as early as 89.
Okay. And the music industry, of course, is still in 2022 is very much a male-dominated space. But so back then, even more so. And I was wondering, as a woman now taking the reins of this budding superstar's career, did you face much resistance? Were there people who, I mean, I know people in different sectors of the music industry who have been told, like, women, I want to speak to a man, like, no offense, but I just want to speak to a man. Did you ever come across any resistance to you now ascending to this powerful position in your son's career as a female?
Well, I never encountered it because, first to begin, I always thought of myself when I go out there as a person. I never looked at myself as being a woman in the business. I always looked at being a person who is managing an artist. So I never looked at it like that. I was never treated like that, and I didn't expect if somebody refused to work with me, I would laugh and say, well, it's their loss. But I never had that problem of because I was a woman, and I suppose maybe I didn't look at myself as being a woman in management. I keep saying to people, I look at myself as a woman when I think of being a mother or being a wife. But as a person, when I am doing my job or when I have to do anything else, but I have never been pressured by being a woman or fear ever being a woman or no, I never had that problem, fortunately.
Oh, that's great. And in your years managing Marcel and the band, have you seen more women ascend to, especially there in Trinidad and Tobago, more women ascend to positions of importance in the music industry compared from the years you started to when you basically left that part of the business?
Well, not just in music, women have risen in everything, in every form of leadership. And when they do a great job. What I noticed, especially in like Jamaica, I noticed there were a lot of women who are involved in management of artists. In Trinidad, we didn't have so many, but now you find a lot of women getting into the field. But as I said, basically in all areas of careers, walk of life, you have a lot of women coming out and a lot of women now seeking jobs and careers. So there is a lot of opportunity and the women are taking advantage of it.
Great, thank you. Well, one of the most, Machel has so many songs that are just like such touchstones for the eras that they come from that really define the era in certainly in soca, but in Caribbean music overall. And one song that he did back, I think it was 2000, was Real Unity with Jupiter. And, obviously speaking to the dominant ethnic groups in Trinidad, the Indian population, the African population. A beautiful song, and it's beautiful that they're singing it together and just melodic. I mean, it's one of those songs that the test of time, like you don't even realize the song is 22 years old, the importance that it still resonates with today. But in your book, you write about the Real Unity concert fiasco, which made headlines, quite significant headlines in its time, when part, which you could tell the story more, but just to outline that, a VIP section of seating collapsed and many people were hurt. But what I found amazing in your book was that you wrote that the lawsuits from this particular concert were ongoing for at least 10 years. And I just wondered, like, Machel was pretty young at that time, and that's a lot on an artist's head when, people are injured at a concert. And for that to go on for so many years of people claiming, a lot of it unjustifiably, but claiming they were hurt or whatever they were claiming. How did he handle that period of his life?
Well, one of the things we always taught our children is that you look at challenges not as though they are really obstacles or things that will keep you down. We have become, or Marshall has become very resilient because of some of these experiences. And I think that on that night, Marshall really matured because he had to take it. Um, that show had stopped for a while, and he had to take it from where it was and bring it back, although it was more somber and everything. And I think that was a point in time in his life when he matured. And his life changed after that, because you will find that in the book, you will see where his journey sort of started on what you call a spiritual path. He started to do meditation, and he came to accept it. And as I said, we taught our children always to look at challenges. And once you can do something about it, you do it, you accept it. And the good thing is there was always that support system so that you were not in it alone. And I think that he did pretty well. And we moved on from strength to strength. In the 10 years that followed, I think that he didn't have to make the court appearances and stuff like that, but he did well and we survived.
And lady, with so many, decades of experiences to choose from and stories to share and highlights, lowlights, everything in between, like, how do you choose for everything that's represented in the book? Like, how were you able to go about, decades of experiences and being able to compress them down into the book that we will see before us, in a month or so when it's published?
It was very hard because 40 years non-stop from the age of 7 to 47, and a very, very active, very, what should I say, successful, a lot of negative experiences, everything mixed up. It was hard to choose, but many things stood out. And what I did was I divided it in different parts so that we looked at the early years, and then we look at the years in between, and we come down to that last Monk Monte period. And we took out the songs and the experiences. For example, one I would like to share, in 1987, we created history. Machel was 12 years of age, and he entered the National Song Festival in Trinidad, and he came second. And luckily for us, 3 people were chosen, the first 3 people to go to Barbados to the Caribbean Song Festival. And there he was at 12, singing Dream Girl, which he dedicated to me, and he won. And he became the first Trinidadian ever win, and also the youngest ever at the age of 12. So that was one of the really, really great moments. Then we have so many, and I just try to share and hope that people will enjoy, and they could take some inspiration. I know that it is not a Bible. I don't expect people to do as Machel did, because everybody have their own development. But I will hope that they will be inspired and that they will enjoy.
Wow. Well, now I'd like to talk a little bit about Machel as the live artist, the performing artist, I should say. And, he did so much to change the landscape of, in my humble opinion, of live performance in Trinidad at carnival time, with the creating the alternative concept, which where he played his own music at the show and encouraged the artists who were the guests to come and play their own music. And that may not sound like a revolutionary idea to people watching in America. Might be thinking, well, isn't that what people do at concerts? But at carnival time, it was the majority of bands would play what the hits were of the day. So you would have, 10 bands doing the same 10 songs, and the contest would be who could do these songs better than the other person. And a big event that was going on when I first started to go to Carnival was Brass Fest. And then I remember that alternative concept came along, and that sort of, that was kind of like, for lack of a better way to say it, the end of Brass Fest, because alternative concept just filled a need maybe that people didn't even know they had, but it was Machel's brilliantly strategizing, like, no, we're going to come, we're going to play our own music, our guests are going to play their own music, and we'll have some special effects and whatever. And and it really became like such a significant, not only a success, which is significant for Machel and all of you, but in terms of the landscape for artists there in Trinidad. I think it just made like a really good direction for artists and original music. And then alternative concept also laid the groundwork for what would become Machel Monday, which became, one of the biggest events in the history of not only Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago, but in the Caribbean, for a single artist show to be attracting 35,000 people. I mean, this is a very significant accomplishment for an artist. So talk a little bit about the beginning with alternative concept and then on to Machel Monday. And initially, were you at all nervous, like with alternative concept, because it was radical for its time, and were you at all a little fearful, this is such a departure, it may not work, because the market is used to something so different?
Well, we are never fearful, first to begin, because Machel was always one who always experimented, who was always willing to take risks. And I think it started in the 90s with Machel and Nappy, where they say, they want to do their own music. They wanted to play their own music rather than everybody playing the same songs. And at the time, it was just Charlie's Roots with David Rod, and they who used to do their own music. And this was a band that Machel and Nappy looked up to. And eventually, they decided to do this, and we went with the alternative concept. And as I say, when we go into things, we go in with our heart and soul, and we are not fearful, we don't think about feeling. We just go forward and we do our best. And we did it. And I think it went on for about 7 years, from 2003 to 2009. And then in 2010, Marshall decided to take a rest because that year we didn't get the stadium to do alternative concept. And he went away and worked with Pitbull and came back. And that is when we decided we will try again. But this Saturday, which we had the concert on AC, wasn't available. And we got it Monday. And that is where the name Machel Monday came from. And then we just continued that same work of doing your own music and also a thematic programming. So therefore, every year we had a theme. And this led to not just Machel, but a lot of younger artists, developing their own shows and doing their own music. So I think it was a really great, feat.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Machel has such a huge fan base also in the States, and particularly here in New York City. And one of the highlights of his career, I mean, there are so many, but certainly for any artist to play Madison Square Garden of any genre, that is a real accomplishment. And in, I believe it was 2007, Machel headline Madison Square Garden. And I have just a little bit of what you wrote about that here that I would just like to share. The tour to Madison Square Garden was one of the milestone celebrations of Machel's 25 years in music. Machel felt that going back to MSG was an opportunity to present a show that he conceptualized. In 1984, he had been the young boy who was a supporting act at the Garden to the Calypso icons, the Mighty Sparrow, Kitchener, and Shadow. In 2007, he was the headline act and a partner in the venture, while the Mighty Sparrow was a supporting act on his show. He felt that was a significant moment. You know, that was a moment when you were coming of age or where you are growing up. Machel always looked at success as another step forward in his development. Madison Square Garden in particular has been a very significant venue for Machel, as you rightly brought together in that little passage between the 1984 show, where he was the young 8-year-old artist performing alongside the giants of Calypso, Sparrow, and Kitchener, and Shadow. And then here he is in 2007, back headlining, and Sparrow is a supporting act on the show. I mean, that is an amazing turn of events. And there's great significance in bringing this up at this time because the book cover, which we are going to reveal here tonight, and now will probably be as good a time as any to reveal it. It's a cover of, it's a photo taken in 1984 at Madison Square Garden, and it's Machel being held aloft by Sparrow, Kitchener, and Shadow, and at the big Mother's Day Calypso show that they used to keep at the Garden back in the 80s and 90s. And it's a beautiful cover. It speaks so much to the history of the time Machel came from and to the greatness to which he would ascend. I think that cover says all of that. And if it's available to reveal, we can do that now. And if not, we can just keep talking and we'll reveal it in a few minutes. And we also have a clip from, there we go.
Wow.
There is
Yes.
yes.
So there we are. Like that picture is a picture that a lot of people love. A lot of people use it, but I know they don't know the history behind it.
Yes.
So that was that night of Madison Square Garden in 1984. And there's Sparrow, Kitchener, and Shadow lifting this 9-year-old almost as presenting him to the world. Because there you have the king of Calypso and all these legends lifting this young man up as to say, we present you this new king or this young king. And I thought that this was the right picture for the book, and that we would show that this is the king of soca. And I think it was very, very significant, and it is a classic picture. And I think it is beautiful.
Yeah.
It was designed by one of our young designers, a group called Practice from Trinidad and Tobago. And well, we sort of assisted with the concept.
And we also have a 1-minute clip from Herman Hall, the editor of Everybody's Magazine, who was very much a part of that photo coming together.
Yes.
And he just explains that so nicely in the little clip he sent. And we would just like to air that and then get your comments after Mr. Hall speaks.
My congratulations to you, Liz, on the biography you wrote about your son, Machel. No mother I know of was so committed to her son in terms of show business and upbringing. I am looking forward to read this book. I'm sure it is a great, great book. And I think if Shadow, not even I think, but if Shadow was alive, he would have been very, very proud of you. Because over the years, when Machel was a little tin, Shadow and myself, we used to talk about him and saying all that Machel needs to do is to get his own band. And this is what he did. And this is why he's become world famous with your help, of course. But I always remember Machel's first show at the Garden. When he put me, you can say, on the manners, when I made a mistake and said to him, "Are you 9? How do you feel to be at a garden?" And he promptly corrected me and said, "No, I am 8.5 years old." It was a nice little interview we had, and I quite remember how my photographer set up the picture with little Marshall, Shadow, Lord Kitchener, and of course the mighty Sparrow. Again, I urge all fans of soca, all fans of calypso, and all fans of Marshall to read the biography. And my congratulations to you, Liz, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it to read it from page to page. Herman Hall, Everybody's Caribbean Magazine, and the late Winston Bailey, Shadow Manager.
Wow. Thank you very much, Mr. Hall, wherever you are, and congratulations on your book also. So Everybody's Magazine was very, very kind in giving us permission from early o'clock to use the picture. And also the families, I want to say thank you to the families of the stars featured there. They also gave us permission for using their image. So it is a very great moment, and I hope people really do enjoy the biography.
Wonderful. Early in the book, you write about the 1984 show at Madison Square Garden and how, of course, it was so moving to watch Machel on the stage, and tears were streaming down your face, like knowing that he had accomplished this at such a young age. And I wondered, like 20, I guess it would have been 23 years on, when he is headlining Madison Square Garden, and what was that experience like for you, returning to the garden now with Machel as an adult and now as the headliner of his own show there?
Well, it wasn't just a show, it was, there were two shows. Because when we started, we went there for one show and it was sold out in the first week, so we had to have a second show. But I remember this song, When Higher Than High, was playing again, raise pause for hair raising. And tears always keep coming to my eyes when I look and I see the achievement over the years and the progress and the excitement. And what I love was how Marshall remembers like the people who took him where he is, so that you will find that he always involved the legends. So he remembered 1984 and 1986, he was there with Sparrow, and they took him as a support. And then I look at him when he had Sparrow now, where Sparrow was now supporting him. And that was such a beautiful moment. And several other moments, because we had about 3 or 4 more years in Madison Square Garden. And then we went to Radio City Music Hall and Barclays Center. And for me, I am a fan, and I used to go to every show. And Marshall said, "Mommy, you're not tired coming to these shows?" But I go there because every time I go, I see something different. And I am very proud.
Wow. Wonderful. And Machel has accomplished so much over these 40 years. And as you point out, he's still a young man and there's still a lot more he's going to do. But one thing I would like to highlight, because I think it's so significant, is that he starred in a film based around his music called Bazodi, and again made history as the first artist from the Caribbean to star in a film, a non-documentary film. He plays the lead role in acting a character more or less based on himself. And but it's a wonderful story, and they beautifully weave songs throughout his career into the plot line. And it gets back to the themes of unity that we spoke about earlier, that Machel speaks to in songs like Real Unity and other songs throughout his career. That moment for him, I mean, I know it was a long process, raising funds to be able to even, having a film script is one thing, but then making it into a reality of a film is a whole other process. And were there any points in time that you and the team felt like, maybe this is too great an endeavor for us to take on, or were you determined to see this through? And by the way, it filmed completely in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, well, whenever we take on something, we just take it on 100% and we go after it no matter what. And we don't ever look towards failure, or we don't ever say it is too much. We go with it and we go to the end. And I think this was basically what we did with Basidi, because we use a lot of local artists, a lot of local crew members, a lot of actors from Trinidad and Tobago, and then we had the support of a lot of organizations. So therefore, whenever it got tough, we always had that support coming up, and we just believed in the movie. We believed in the story. Believed in bringing our people together, bringing the races together. So we did everything, and eventually, with all the support we had, it was very successful. We're still pushing it because right now it's going into India. There has been interest in India from Kabir and his wife. Kabir starred the movie. When we went to London, we won 2 awards in London. Machel got an award in Barbados. So, the process has been long, it has been slow because it was a first time. And we tried our best. I think that people love the movie, and we just keep going at it, and movies never get old. So we're still at it.
Great. And for yourself now, with the book ready to come on the market soon, what are some of your plans like for, will you be touring with your book? Will you be doing lectures? I mean, you have, as an author, but as a businesswoman, you have accomplished so much, and you have so much wisdom to share. Like, will you be doing speaking engagements related to the book in international markets?
Well, this is how the book came about. I always believe, and I told my children, even my students, that knowledge is nothing if you don't share it. And in my head here, I have knowledge of 40 years, so much that I experienced that I would like to share with the rest of the world. I would like to share with children. I would like to share with our other artists. I would like to share with our culture, with the world, because I think that Caribbean stories must be told. And I think that I would like to encourage others to do the same. I would like to inspire people. I have been a teacher all my years, so I am prepared. I would like to do like school tours. I would like to show, I would like to use some of the characteristics that made Machel successful to show people that you don't have to be great, or you don't have to be something big to be successful. Some of the things that you can do. You don't have to do what he did, but these are some of the things that you can look like. Here is a young boy from a small country who was able to do it and who had the support. I also showed that you don't need to have your blood family as support, but just a group of people behind you who care for you and who will root for you. So I wanted to, the main thing is to share that knowledge. I always want to know that I can leave something for other people to look at and say, yes, here's something that I either follow, not follow, I could take as examples. And I think that I'm very willing. Although I am 72 this year, I would really, really love to be able to visit schools, communities, and universities across the world, sharing that knowledge and sharing our Caribbean stories.
Well, Lady, if you would indulge us, some of our audience here have a few questions for you, and we would just like to open up the microphone now for anyone who would like to step up. If you could come over here. So
I welcome the questions.
I was mesmerized. My name is Kamala Millwood. I was completely mesmerized by you talking about your son and talking about, the trials and tribulations that you had when you were bringing him into this world. And I wanted to know, did you consider doing audiobooks in addition to this book so that more people can be mesmerized by you telling your stories the way you do as an amazing storyteller?
Yes, we are going to have an audiobook. We're going to have ebooks. We're going to have everything available. I'm also trying to have a book in Braille. I don't know how possible it is, but I just want to embrace everybody, So there's going to be an audiobook. What I tell people is I'm very good. I'm better at storytelling than I'm at writing because I tend to write very academic because I've studied all my years. And to do the book, I had to be conversational, But when I tell the story, I really bring out the emotion because I said it is in my brain and it's my lived experience. And as I call myself in the book, the ultimate insider, because I have been there from the beginning. I have been there through the good times. I've been there through the hard times. I've been there through the then. I'm there in the now. And I hope that I'll be there in the future. So that it is my pleasure to tell this story.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Ms. Montano. How are you?
Hi, Miriam.
Um, I know this was very hard for you, especially going down memory lane at times, and sometimes maybe very joyful. Um, and I know you went through a lot of people to help you with this book. Maybe because there was so much story to tell. Is there any part of it through it all that you sometimes say, look, I'm not doing this anymore? And what made you continue?
Well, if you know me, Miriam, and ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my granddaughter's mother, Melody Jada Montano. And she has been there. We have been around for many, many years. And I am a person, if Miriam will know, I never give up. I started writing this book. Well, remember, it came from my dissertation in 2018. And I was supposed to have been upgraded to a PhD, but unfortunately, that didn't materialize. And I said, no, it's okay. I'm going to write a book because I really wanted to get to the people. And then when the pandemic stepped in 2000, I didn't have anything to do, and I started to write it. And I used those 2 years when we were silent and we were quiet and no disturbances, and I was very encouraged. So during that process, I never really lost interest or never said I wanted to give up because I was always inspired and I wanted to write and write and write. And now I'm feeling bored because I'm finished. If people know me, I always like to be very active and doing things. And I get a pleasure even being alone and writing. I'm so happy for the time so that it was really, really, really encouraging, inspiring, and I never felt like giving up. I have a next one coming, hopefully, my memoirs.
So Alton, the immovable president and founder of Tropicalfete. So I want to thank you for coming. You said a number of things today that inspires me. First thing is our stories have to be told, and we should be the one telling our story and navigating our path in life. So thank you for starting that journey. First question to you is, you are now an author. Have you ever penned any songs for Marshall or wrote a line or given him a hook line or anything of that nature? Or are we looking for your credits, the album cover, for you to get your royalty check also?
Oh, well, sometimes I will tell him, we always, as I said, I'm a confidant. I am the ultimate insider. So whenever he does anything, he will run it by me. But I'm no writer, but I will pass the ideas around. We will share names, we will share different things. Like one of his songs, I know he and his father wrote that song, but I'm there. I'm in everything, but I am really the supporter. Machel takes the lead. Machel writes a lot of his songs. He has a lot of other writers, but I think I know my place. But I'm there to support.
All right, wonderful. Final question before I turn it back over to Pat is the title of the book says The Ultimate Insider. And all artists, no matter what genre, want to reach the top. And when I saw the title, I was like, oh, cool. A lot of soca artists going to jump and figure out what it takes to reach the top. If you could give us one or two things, what it took for Machel to get there, and your advice for the young generation, coming in, and not people that are currently on the scene, but people probably going to read the book the next 20 years. Okay, well, this is the path in terms of how, we grew up. One of the things at Tropicalfete, I try to look at is, do we build a foundation for the people coming behind us? So yes, we do a lot of great work around here, what we do, but we actually building a foundation for whoever is coming next. So that's my question to you.
Good. Well, this goes back to the beginning. What I think is that, and I would advise parents, I think most important is to lay down a good foundation. And I think when I look back at not just Machel, but both Machel and Marcus and my grandchildren, I think that teaching your children core values are most important. Because I remember Machel and Marcus came at a time when there was the Black Power movement. And I remember us instilling in them the importance of education, the value of education, the importance of loving your own, the importance of sharing, the importance of working together, the importance of unity, the importance of love. And if you look at Machel, there's a common thread going through these 4 decades. And it is always, Machel doesn't do anything by himself. Machel always shares. We always collaborate. Machel's music always gives you that sense of love and unity. And as I tell people when they say, oh, you must be proud, boy, proud of your son. One is a pilot and one is an entertainer. I say, I'm not proud that they are a pilot or an entertainer as such. But what we, both Monty and I, are proud of is that the core values that we taught them from early, where we socialize them, that now as men, they have manifested in them. So that I could look and I could see these things they got it from what they were taught early in life. So like things like we taught them to always be honest, we taught them always to share, always express themselves, always be well-read, always love others. And I think that looking back now, I'm very satisfied that they became men, the men that they are now, I'm proud of. And I think these are the things that have made Machel the success that he is. He has lived and he has really gone through and been an example in terms of the core values that we inculcated in him as a child.
Does anyone else have any questions? Step up, please. Okay, sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Hi, good afternoon, Ms. Montano. I'm Junior Andrews. I'm president of Cocorite House. It's a cultural group in Brooklyn, New York. First, I want to say congratulations on your awesome book. I love the title. I basically grew up around the same time with Machel in Trinidad and Tobago, and I am very proud. I just want to say I'm very proud of his whole accomplishment. And I love how he gave back to charity that a lot of people don't know about, but he gave back a lot. So it speaks to that core value you're speaking about there.
Yes,
So
thank you.
my question to you is this: how do you see Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago and the rest of around the Trinidad and Tobago particularly, and the rest of the Caribbean growing and developing in time to come?
How do I see Carnival?
Okay.
Well, that across the world, well, that's an answer. I think that I don't know how to answer it because it is so, what I say, unpredictable now. But what I think is that soca music at the moment is in a very advantageous position so that we can afford to take our music now to the rest of the world. And hopefully that we will, let's say from 2023, I know we will not be able to come back 2019, but I really don't know, but I hope that we will make it as big as it was and that we put all that we can into it. But I think more than Carnival is that we spread our music and our culture, not just during Carnival season, but throughout the year. And I see positive things going because we have a lot of young people who are interested in the music, and hopefully that they will spread it, the culture, as we go along.
Thank you very much. Have a good
You're
evening.
most welcome. Good evening. Thank you.
Well, we just wanted to say thank you, Elizabeth Lady Montano, for sharing your evening with us tonight. And again, the book is one. Oh, you do have? I'm sorry? Oh, Alton is requesting a signed copy of the book when you have time for that. Are we wrapping, Alton? Okay, but this has been our conversation with the ultimate insider, Elizabeth Lady Montano, and the book. Again, the full title reveal is The King of Soca. The Ultimate Insider reveals how Machel Montano became one of the world's most popular soca artists. Liz, it is such an incredible story. It's an incredible life you have lived. Your story alone is incredible. Then you add in the musical success of your son and what you've accomplished as a family and continue to accomplish as a family. And it's inspiring on so many levels. And we're really thankful for your time this evening. And we wish you great success with the book when it comes out. And we hope to see you in New York, perhaps later in the year. And maybe there's some kind of an in-person event we could do. We would love that. But everything in its time. But it's such an honor to have you here with us and kick off our 2022 Authors Connecting series. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it was a pleasure being given the opportunity to share some of these ideas from the book. And I hope that people will enjoy. And I hope to see New York soon, because New York is one of those major places in the development of Machel's career from very early. So I thank you again. I thank the audience. I thank the organizers, and I really look forward, and I am going to tell that story.
Yes, and thank you for letting our New York-based organization reveal your book cover, reveal the full title of your book, considering the image, as we revealed with Kitsch and Shadow and Sparrow, taken in New York City at the time when Machel was 8.5 years old, as Herman Hall stated. You know, it's such an important New York story too, and we just feel honored that you allowed us to share that with the viewers online tonight and the many more people who will be watching this over the coming weeks and months. So thank you again for your time, and we wish you all the best with your book.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening to all.
You too. Bye.